What if glaciers could sing? What if melting ice wasn't just something we study, but something we listen to? Welcome to the Soaring Tales, a platform where story, science, and lived experience come together, and where listening matters more than just speaking. And here we slow down. We listen to people, to places, and more than the human word. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Dr. Shivangi Mishra, and in each episode, I explore how care, curiosity, and connection can help us reimagine our relationship with Mother Nature and with each other. Today's story begins with a very special guest. Doesn't just record glaciers, she listens to them and then she sings with them. I'm so excited to welcome Nefur to the episode 3 of The Soaring Tales. She is a singer, composer, and a sound artist who quite literally create music out of glaciers sound. And she travels icy glaciers, landscapes, recording the sounds of moving ice and water, and waves them together with her voice to create deeply immersive soundscapes. Her work invites us to slow down, to listen, and to reconnect with Mother Nature, with water, and with ourselves. In a world that's constantly talking, Nefur's work asks us a simple question: are we still listening? So, thank you so much, Nefur, for giving your time, for being here. And to begin with, can you take us back to the very first moment you truly listened to a glacier?
Hello, Shivangi and everyone. It's a pleasure to be here chatting with you today. And yeah, I'm an artist living in Iceland, and it's been a while that I've been doing this work of listening to glaciers, but maybe not so long. Like it started in 2021, so 4 or 5 years ago. So the first moment I listened to a glacier, there was, of course, the first glacier I visited in Iceland or I met in Iceland was Snæfellsjökull. Is a glacier on the west of Iceland, and there is a very beautiful peninsula there, mountain. It is coronated with a glacier, and there's also a volcano under, which is a very specific and characteristic feature of Icelandic glaciers. So I remember going there. I was going with my collaborator. We're going on a trip with the microphones and the equipment to meet this glacier, step into this glacier. And this is a glacier that at the time, it was end of October 2021. It was covered with snow, and I could walk on the snow, let's say, on the glacier, and listen to a majestic silence. That was the first one, I think, because then other glaciers, have more a body of ice without not much snow on top. So you hear more sounds actually from the glaciers in those cases. But the first one, Snæfellsjökull, was a pure experience of listening to this kind of majestic silence that is hard to explain actually. It's like this space that you feel, there's this vastness, there's this whiteness around you, and there's this kind of emptiness that can actually connect you with something very deep. And then I started listening there and singing as well, like improvising a melody, singing a song. I was thinking at that moment of singing kind of lament song with Snæfellsjökull, because also it's one of the Icelandic glaciers that is supposed to disappear pretty soon as well.
Yeah, I can almost feel the stillness when you were talking about that. experience, and it sounds that that moment changed the way how you listen today, and you're spreading so much healing that energy to everyone around you and with your project. So was there a moment that where when you realized that listening would become central to your work after that first experience?
It definitely changed the way I approached listening, the way I approach music, the way I approach sound, the way I approach creation, the way I approach love, the way I approach myself. I think not only the first Snæfellsjökull experience, but the whole experience with all of the Icelandic glaciers. So yeah, my intention since the beginning was to establish this kind of dialogue as me as an artist and also the glaciers as collaborators, as creative beings, that they are also alive and have something to say, even if it's not in words, isn't it? And then, yeah, the act of listen can reveal so much about not only ourselves, but also like how do we see the world. I think in this, what's interesting in this kind of dialogue is like, okay, I'm listening to the glacier, but listening, the glacier is also listening to me.
Yeah.
And this exchange of, okay, we are accountable to each other. There's things that I can feel when I'm listening. There's things that I can perceive. So there's a lot that is to be received by us from nature if we open up of our senses to listening. Sometimes we think a lot about we are the ones to produce dialogue, to produce speech, to produce information, to produce content. But what if actually is a bit more bi-directional? Yeah, in the sense of how we relate with glaciers, with rivers, with mountains. Like I really like to believe in this animated, sensuous world that is fully alive and that we are part of it, part of this nature, and then therefore we can also connect to these instincts, we can connect to these rhythms, and then that can help us be more aligned, that can help us be more respectful, that can help us be more, yeah, in connection with our true nature.
That's so true. And that's what I completely agree with, because I'm also like that. Whenever I feel low, I go to the riverside. We have a Bow River, just 5 minutes walk. And my husband and I, we go there and we sit and we sit very quietly. We don't talk to each other even. And we connect with nature. And it's something that cannot be described in words or explained. It can only be felt. So I understand when you said that a relationship, like not only we are listening, Mother Nature also listen to us, and that connection is something beyond words. We cannot explain that. Yeah.
Exactly. Beautiful.
So very beautifully you explained this. My next question, and which would be the curiosity of the viewers also, that what is glacier music? And when people hear the phrase glacier music, they are immediately curious that what does that mean to you? How do you actually record and work with glacier sounds?
Yeah, exactly. I think everyone is like, but what does a glacier sound like? Like, what is this sound? And yeah, I think when I first came to the glaciers, also, I didn't know the answer. But yeah, after doing the work, you can say there's a variety of sounds that can either come from water that is generated on the streams that are, from the melting of the glacier, different kind of sounds of water, ping from ice caves, also the resonance on the ice capes for singing. And then important one also, like when you put a microphone that is able to go underwater and reveal this kind of hidden sounds
Yeah.
underwater is very surprising. And that happens a lot when you put up this hydrophone on a glacial lake. So you put the microphone inside the water of the lake. You don't hear anything with your bare ears when you are outside, but through the hydrophone, you listen the sounds of the ice melting inside the water, and that surprisingly resembles a kind of a forest, a kind of a jungle, a kind of simplicity of birds or kisses. Like there's so much rich sound kind of in the high end of these kind of little particles of
Mm.
ice melting. And these are sounds that can be found on my website or on my podcast, The Glacier Song, as well. But there's more. There's also, these are more kind of high frequency sounds. There's also very low sounds. So low sounds, for example, can come from the ice moving under its own weight. So glaciers, probably we associate it more as mountains, but in reality, maybe they're more like rivers.
More like rivers. Yeah.
More like rivers. They move, they glide as mass, as a
Mhm.
solid mass glides under its own way in a very slow motion.
Mhm.
So you can act, so this movement is vibration and is sound. So this movement generates a sound that is very low, it is very deep. And sometimes you can have crevices, openings on the glaciers that can reveal also the sound. It can be tapped in powerful ambient mics or with the geophones.
Mhm.
And yeah, this was also one of the very powerful sounds I encountered on glaciers. This very deep vibration of the ice moving as the river under its own way, deep, not on the surface,
Yeah.
lower down. And yeah, also a sound that I then, when I, after recording all these sounds, after singing on site with them, there was the question, what am I going to do with these sounds? And one of the things that I did is create an album that was composed using only these sounds and my voice, and also applying effects, audio
Mhm.
effects to the sounds in a way that I could almost make an orchestra or make a palette of instruments out of the glacier sound. So this deep sound became kind of a bass that I could change the pitch and the altitude and become the bass of my songs. Or my steps on the ice could become percussion or droplets of water from an ice cave could become also percussion. So yeah, this bringing all of that into a creation of art, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And thanks for explaining it so nicely. That really shifts our way that how we think of music and something like this authorship. So building on that, your voice also it's so beautiful. It's like so soothing and it's like a conversation with the glacier itself when I hear you. And how do you decide how to sing with these sounds? And is it intuitive, improvised, or guided by the ice itself? Like you just explained that, how you do that. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's different ways that I've been approaching this actually in the last few years. Initially, there's a big part of intuition, and almost all of it, I could say, can be ice-led or glacier-led, but kind of
Yeah.
filtered through my lenses or filtered through my senses, through my experience.
Yeah.
So on the one side, like when I go to the glaciers, I improvise, just kind of channeling on the moment according to what I feel. And it's something that there's no kind of conscious decision or process into it. Like it's okay, what's the sound that wants to come out? And it just flows. It just flows like the water
Mm.
and has a little structure. It happens over time. Then there's the composition process, which I was telling you that, okay, let's convert these sounds into instruments and let's create stories as well. Let's lyrics, let's create, yeah, songs with a text that people can relate to or people can understand also through this text, not only the poetry of it, but also the message of the glaciers that again was filtered or received from me. So that's also what I did with the album. And then there's these different archetypes. The album is called The Water, the Lover, and it has this kind of journey that is mythological, that is archetypical, that goes through different symbols, different myths, different images that we can all relate to, and goes a little bit into the psyche on how, in the end, I think the overall message can be how can we connect with our senses more? How can we be more alive? How can we feel more and feel more alive? And because of we get a deeper connection to nature and a
Mhm.
deeper connection to this energy of creation that is also sexual energy and that is the energy that is everywhere in
Yeah.
nature and in water.
Yeah, that's so beautifully said. And building on that, you talked about your album, The Water, the Lover. Can you please tell us about this album more and what stories or emotions live inside that project? And what does it mean?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't know when we are publishing this podcast, but anyway, The Water, the Lover is this album I composed with the sounds of Icelandic glaciers and my voice that 9 months ago it released only on Bandcamp and on vinyl, on bio vinyl. But I'm also happy to share with you that it's going to be on streaming platforms except for Spotify for ethical reasons. It's going to be on all alternative streaming platforms on the 20th of February.
Mhm.
So it's also going to be accessible there. And what can I tell you more about this album is that it has 7 songs as these kind of 7 archetypes. One is the egg, the other one is the mermaid, the string, the human, the mirror, phoenix, and the source. And I don't know if I would go a little bit into. I could give you a little detail of each one. Where does it touch? Like for me, the egg is this kind of connection with pleasure that comes and with surrender, with feminine energy as well, like something that felt particularly one of the glaciers prompting me and telling me to explore. And this connected with this kind of origin of creation of the universe, of everything. The mermaid can be this archetype of connecting to mystery, to the depth, to a sense of freedom as well, but again, through the water and a particular energy of love and connection as well. The string connects with all of it's kind of imagining an ice cave as a womb
Mhm.
and imagining all the lineage that comes before us
Yeah.
and how it can support all of this yeah lineage creation and feminine energy, but that at the same time is wild and it has a lot of fire as well. Like I remember I was thinking a lot of Kali, the string. It has a lot of passion and
Yeah.
fire as well that came from an ice cave.
Yeah.
But the human connects. It's a song that is a bit of a dialogue with the first one, with the egg, and wants to be a kind of an anthem of a prayer. Let's the know for the collective of humanity to reconnect with the beauty, the nature of the wild.
Yeah. I loved how you described it. And you described it as a relationship, not just as a project or just an album, but it's something that more than a project or an album. It's a relationship with Mother Nature. It's a relationship with different layers, like you said. So that makes me want to go back and listen again. I love that. And I would highly recommend my viewers to go through that experience. So now, I would like to talk a little bit about like climate, grief, and hope through sound, because your work also touches on climate change, but in a very gentle and a human way. And what can sound and music communicate that data and headlines often, that the headlines and other structures often can't? How do you hold both grief and beauty in your work? Because it's
Yeah.
something very, sensitive. And
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, for me, the way I approach my work and being a musician and working with glaciers, being a creator and artist, working with glaciers and climate change, is that what I know that what I can provide is an emotional connection, an emotional bond through sound and through experience and through senses. Um, so here is where I like to stand, and also I feel like it's a very necessary layer to have, because if we just stay on the data, that is also of course very important, but there can be a kind of dissociation, or there can be a kind of not, it can be for people more difficult to engage and to want to participate and feel that that's something they can do something about. It can be easy if you actually get to know glaciers and get to listen to them, but get to know them in a sensorial way. Like for me, the embodied experience is something very important, and it's this bond and this connection that can help people care and that can help people love something. And then when you care and when you love is when you can protect as well, no? And we are talking, I think, with climate change about protection
yeah,
and about the future as well. And what is the heritage that we pass on to the future, and to go to that line when we are thinking beyond our own timeline. I believe we need this kind of sensorial experience that can give us some sense of transcendence as well, and some sense of continuity. In the end, vibration is kind of one of the principles of the universe, no, and of existence.
yeah,
Vibration comes from movement, and music is vibration. So that's why it can access some parts of nature and ourselves that might be not conscious, but are important. And yeah, I believe without this felt connection, it can be difficult for people to really make a change.
yeah, that's so true. And that really holds the tenderness and grief at the same time. And also, it's a quiet kind of activism in that. And it feels like you are creating a space for emotions people don't always know how to hold. So it's
Yeah.
so important. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredibly important and moving. And I think people need to hear that, need to know that. And if glaciers could leave one message, what do you think they would want us to hear?
For me, the message from the glaciers is that we cannot save the earth if we don't connect back to our hearts.
Yeah.
So that's the key message. Like, we cannot do this only from our minds. We need to involve our emotions, we need to involve our bodies and our spirits. And
Yeah,
that's what glaciers want us to do.
that's really huge. And yeah, the feelings and empathy and love, that part is missing nowadays. And I also see that people often try to do whatever they can do, like from the research, from other stuffs, but it's very, very important to connect and to have that feeling part alive in us in whatever we do, like being a responsible person and being someone who has that love alive. So that's so important. Yeah. And finally, what is one small way listeners can bring more listening into their daily lives?
Yeah, very nice. In the end, yeah, I think it's a little bit about like the experience that you were sharing about you and your husband going to the river. Although I think we don't need to make it difficult or huge for us, like go somewhere that you cannot always go. Like it can be also very simple in any at any space. Although I believe if you are close to, especially for me, if you are close to any body of water, sea, glacier, river, that brings you like kind of special layer of
Yeah.
soothing and connection and oneness that can really activate your this kind of heart space. But yeah, listening in your daily life is taking this moment to stop, to breathe, even if it's for 2 minutes, and to sit with your emotions, because sometimes I think we built such a society that wants to keep us entertained and busy. So there's no space for, okay, just sitting and doing nothing. And I think part of the lesson of the healing of the nature and of the world is this learning of a feminine principle in the end, the feminine energy principle that is like, I'm here, I'm surrendering, I'm receiving, I don't need to be doing all the time. I don't need to be producing all the time. I don't need to be busy all the time. I don't need to consume information all the time. I don't even need to listen to music or to podcast or whatever all the time. So this is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
But I can actually be this kind of, like when the going back to the beginning of conversation, like this first time that I went to the first glacier, Snæfell's Yakult, and it was just, it can be that emptiness, that whiteness, that like learning to reincorporate that.
Mm-hmm.
Can be
Very,
something simple like reading a couple of minutes a day with nothing else.
yeah, true. Very beautifully said. And thank you for sharing your voice today, your listening, and your work with us. And this conversation is a reminder that sometimes the most important thing we can do is to slow down and listen.
Yeah.
Hmm. Thank you so much, Nefur. And to everyone listening, I invite you to carry this conversation with you. If this episode moved you, slow down today, put your phone aside and step out and listen to the wind, to the water, and to even your own breath, like Nefur said. The next time you are near to something you usually pass by, pause and listen, not to understand or not to explain something, but to simply be present in the moment, because the natural world is always speaking to us. And the question is, are we listening? So, this has been the Soaring Tales, where stories, science, and listening meet. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Nefur.